question asked semi-frequently. Like, it's been enough times that I was like, maybe I'll just make a quick video and then I can just direct to here. So how many books do I read? Because if you don't know, I read a lot of books. So I talked about this at the beginning of this year, and my goal is to read 200 books in a year. Now with that, I really hadn't set a huge, like, well, it has to be this many of this kind or this many of this kind. It was just 200, which to some people is substantial. But for me, I have found that mostly talking about books on my channel is kind of my niche for the witch community, because I was constantly looking for book reviews and I wasn't finding them. So it's one of those, if you don't see what you need, you do it. And so that's what I've been doing. And also, like, there's so many other witch channels that already talk about the basics, and they already talk about, like, it's the same content over and over, and I am not a designer. I'm not in, like, aesthetically pleasing, have a studio space. Like, this is literally my office. Like, I have my bookcase situation thing here of chaos, where it's got photo albums and copies of my books, but then also like cleaning supplies right here, and I have like the couch that my cat sleeps on. Like, it's a real lived-in space, it's not a set. And so not having like the aesthetically pleasing, it makes it harder to gain an audience. And I've struggled for so many years to find like my niche in the community, and once I started to do books and they did pretty well in comparison to my other videos, it was like, maybe that's it. So it became a higher priority for me, especially when I moved into doing all of this stuff full time, to have books be my main focus, especially figuring out the like random workarounds I have to do with the library to find witchy books, because they exist. It's just not easy to find. Their search system, even for non-witchcraft books, just suck. Like, the AI of it is just horrific. They don't have a good computer in charge, to say the least. It's a battle constantly. And you know, you go to Amazon and it's immediately like, boom, there, here you go. And then my library is like, this exists, and you're like, literally, yeah, you advertised it and now you can't find it. But if you search it a different way, it's there. But anyways, once I figured out how to work the library and they have a plethora of books, that's when I was like, that's gonna be like my niche in the community. And so it became a higher priority than it would be for most people. So I try to post a decent amount of witchcraft books. I do occasionally do other videos, obviously here we are, but for the most part that's kind of where I found my little spot in the community, where there's not a lot of people doing it. And so it's like, you know, it's a good spot. I like it. I like to read. Books are my thing. So it worked out pretty well. Now, as for my reading schedule, I do read a lot. Typically, I plan to read, especially on, like, I would say like 5 to 6 days of the week, I try to read, start to finish, 1 book a day. So that's a lot for a lot of people. But again, I do this full time, so I have the time to do it. And honestly, the more you read, the faster your reading speed becomes as well. And so that does help. But usually it'll take me, you know, 3 or 4 hours, depending on the size of the book. The Pagan Portals, oh, I love them. They're so fast. And then I have some books that do take longer than a day, and sometimes I'll even fit books in between. Like, I'm currently reading through, like, what is it? Like, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Buddhism, I think is the title. And it's a chonker of a book. So I've just read a part a day, and I think that one has 4 parts, so it's gonna take me 4 days to get through it. And so in the meanwhile, I will read a different book as a priority and then work on that one throughout the day or at night. And then I will also still want to read my fiction books, and because that's for my other channel. If you don't know, I have 2 channels. I have an author channel, and then I have my witch channel. And on the author channel, I've been talking about the fiction books that I read. And so for that one, I'm trying to read 1 a week, because honestly, I read so many of the witchcraft books. The fiction, I just don't have time. So I usually pick a day on the weekend to just binge through one of those books. Those do take a little bit longer. Usually that'll take about 6 hours-ish, 5 to 6 hours, depending on the book and how distracted I end up getting, because inevitably you get pulled away to do other stuff. And so I try to get those done as quickly as possible, but usually it'll be like, I usually try and read in the mornings, so I will get up and then I will read my witchcraft book for the day while I'm drinking my tea, and then I will, over the weekend, do that, but then also for the rest of the day I will be trying to read my fiction book as much as possible, and trying to pull back a little bit on how many books I'm reading and like talking about kind of has helped, so I have a little bit of a buffer. So like weekends I can usually spend Saturday and Sunday to read my fiction book, while the rest of the week, especially again when I have my short ones, the Pagan Portals, I could read like 2 or 3 of them in a day because they're so small, but that's kind of nice because then I can get ahead. But yeah, my goal is to read pretty much 1 book a day and then a fiction book a week. And you know, the fiction ones, honestly, I read more of those in like, to me it feels like I read more of like sit down reading time with them, but also it's just because there's so many flippin' chapters. Witchcraft books typically are gonna be like around 15 chapters-ish. Fiction books are like pushing 50. So there's obviously different books. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, but the ones I read, they're also the small print. They're like the little itty bitty teeny tiny print. And I think from what I have found online, they're typically around like 80,000 words. I don't think very many of the witchcraft books are around that word count. A lot of them are a lot shorter and they're more spaced out, and they're just easier on the eyeballs to look at because they usually have pictures and diagrams and different things to just kind of space it out, headings and whatever, where fiction, you just read until you get to the next chapter. But obviously I like them both. I write both. And so, you know, sometimes I'll read other books as well. Like, I do plan next year to try and read more of like the writing, like how to write a book kind of a books, and get a little bit more into the techniques and that fun stuff for writing. But also, I mean, witchcraft dude, we got a lot of books and a lot of them come out all the time. Llewellyn, I think they usually publish like, I want to say like 3 or 4 a month. So, I mean, it's not a lot, but also my library has a huge catalog backlisted of ones, and I find new ones all the time that I've searched them, doesn't pull, search it differently, then it pulls. So I've got a lot of those, and then I also usually try and branch out a little bit so that I don't just read through all of the witchcraft books and be like, well damn, now we gotta wait. I also, like, I'm reading through a variety of different spiritual books, Buddhism, yoga, different kind of side tangenty stuffs that, you know, a lot of times the pagan and witch community will get into just to talk about different books, because like, why not? That's literally, like, my website is going to be called Full-Time Books. I just have to actually do the thing and actually finish and actually have it done. But yeah, so I read a lot of books. And then also, do keep in mind, I also read my own books so many times, because if you don't know, when you write your own books, you read that sucker a lot. A lot. You read it so many times. And yeah, like I just finished reading through my latest book, Turning the Wheel. I read through that so many times, doing edits, and then actually reading through it, doing the audiobook, and it's like, damn, do I know how to make a sentence? Because there's a difference when you have to read a sentence out loud versus in your head. And you're like, this is the stupidest sentence, and you're just constantly tripping on words and you have to fix it. So yeah, I also read a lot of my own books, but I don't count that in my mega list of books, because I'm like, there's so many times you have to reread it all the time. But yeah, so basically I read a lot. I always have a book on me at any given time, and like when I go on vacation, I'm usually bringing at least like 10 books with me, and I just can't imagine my life without books. I've always been a reader, like since I was a kid, and I like the magic kicked in of when you could actually like have that hallucination thing of like where you physically see the story in your brain and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool. Once that happened, I've never not been into books. I've always been into books, and then obsessively into books. So yeah, I have been obsessively reading books for many a year, and I just now kind of pushed myself to a new level that not a lot of people can do, which is, you know, like when I was working traditional jobs, there's no way I could read as many books as I do, but being full-time doing this and writing books and having a wonderful husband who helps pay the bills, 90% of the bills, really, all of them. I love him. He does the things. I just putz around and read books all day. Anyways, I know that not everyone can do that, and that's why I like to do this, so that I can save you time, so that you can find out if a book is one that you would actually enjoy or not, because again, not a lot of people have that kind of time, and I do. So I'll read it for you and then tell you about it. So anyways, yeah, that's how many books I read on the regular, and my goal is to get to 200 books a year-ish, and pretty much I'm close. So it says Goodreads, I'm 9 books ahead right now. I was more, and then just things happen, and then I get behind. But yeah, so I typically read, and depending too, sometimes I'll even read like 2 to 3 books in a day if I don't plan to record or write or anything. I'll just finish one book, grab the next, make my notes obviously, and then continue along. But yeah, I read a lot of books and maybe at the end of the year I will show you my binder of notes that I've been keeping throughout the year of all the books that I have read in 2024. So anyways, I would love to know how many books you read in a year and how frequently you read and like your reading schedule in the comments down below. A huge thank you to my patrons. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content like extra book reviews and my audio books and updates and different thoughts and things of what I am doing as a witch in my personal life and all that jazz, I would love to have you join me over on Patreon, always linked in the doobly-doo. Until next time, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can appease the algorithm gods and you can know when I publish a new video, which is typically every single day. Till next time, thank you so much and blessed be.